It's lazy time and we're gonna do a review. Yes, we're gonna review like about movies and comics too. Let's all go watch the Hey everybody, how's it going? It is me, LazyDude99 here with my top 10 favorite movies that came out in 2015. 2015's already over. What a year we have. I mean, the fact that we have had many things happen this year. We've had Star Wars come back, we've had Mad Max come back, we had Pixar come back in a big way, and then we also have... And 2015 was pretty big for me here at the channel because we had the second Arkham week that took so long to do and so long to come out, but it finally went out, and I thought it was pretty good. Thought it was pretty successful. Now we have the end list, the top 10 films of 2015. These are, of course, my favorite. These are not necessarily the best ones. In fact, on this list, it's not necessarily the ones over top of each other are not necessarily the ones that I think that are the best made. It is just the ones that I think are my favorite over each other in this list. So you guys know the drill if you've watched a top 10 list before. I'm all dressed up. See, can't you tell I got a dress shirt underneath this? Yeah, I'm going all fancy for the end of the year, even though it is, a little bit past the end of the year. But anyway, here we go. Top 10 list of my top 10 favorite films of 2015. Number 10. Bridge of Spies. This movie was, let me just, before I get into this, I want to say that a lot of these movies, you'll be like, whoa, why didn't he review that? Well, as I said with Arkham Week, I had a lot of films that I saw, but didn't necessarily review because I had been working on this big thing and building up to it, so... there was a lot of movies that I actually didn't get around to review, but hopefully in this top 10 list you'll be able to see how I felt about them going in. So anyway, this movie, Bridge of Spies, Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks, back together again to go another go at it. Here we go with this one. Instead of being about World War II, it is about the Cold War. At this time, it's based on a true story where the Americans had a spy from Russia in their captivity, and Russia had an American spy in their captivity. So it's time for the countries to do a trade. And the only person that they decide is capable of doing this is the lawyer who defended the Russian spy in court. And so that is Tom Hanks' character, and we go on his journey to Russia to try to see if the Russian and Americans can make some sort of arrangement to get their people back to where they belong. This is an interesting movie because you got a lot of, let's say, true story movies that I feel like they add things. Like, for example, you got a movie like Argo. Now, I loved Argo. I was very happy when it won Best Picture. Did it deserve it? I don't know, but it was one of the movies I was rooting for. Now, when Argo, though, you like that entire last act where they're going on the planes and then the soldiers figure out, oh, these people aren't accounted for, we gotta go get them, and they get into the trucks and they drive to the airport and they're like, stop the plane, and then they fly off. In my mind, I'm like, that probably didn't happen. Of course that probably didn't happen. It probably went smooth sailing. They're just adding this to amp up the epicness and the tension for the final act. But when it came to Bridge of Spies, after I thought about it, I'm like, man, I don't even know if anything in this movie didn't happen. There might have been some things that maybe were amped up a little bit, but there wasn't any, there was a scene near the end where something happens and the whole thing could fall apart. I'm like, I can actually see this happening. Everything that happens here, I can actually see it happening. And you know what? I just like the way these characters act in this film, I see as real people. You know, this is one of the few movies where I feel like I don't know if it did, but everything felt like this could happen in the real world. You know, it's not like they were adding a scene just so they could feel like they were, you know, more intense than the events really were. But anyway, Tom Hanks was great. The whole movie was great. It was fun. The thing that would hold it back is I'm not necessarily going to be buying this movie when it comes out in DVD. It's a movie that I enjoyed once, but it's not. It doesn't have a whole lot of rewatchability for me because the only thing it's really about is this trade. And, you know, there's no underlying. I shouldn't say there's none, but you know, for me, I think it's a very good movie, very well done, and that's why it gets number 10. Number 9. Number 9, Avengers Age of Ultron. Now I did do a review on this. It was an unedited review, but I did do a review on it. Now some people might be a little shocked to find it this low on the list. What can I say? Age of Ultron is a very good movie, and you know what, as I said in my review, it's probably better than the first Avengers film. I just didn't really enjoy myself as much while watching this movie as I did with the first Avengers. It amps up the stakes. It makes everything larger. The fight scenes are bigger and more. You know, there's so much more going on. But you know, in a way, I was just like, it was good. I wasn't necessarily blown away by it. But I'm not here to talk about the stuff that I wasn't blown away by. I'm here to talk about the stuff that I really liked about it, which earned it the number 9 spot on my favorites list. There was great acting all around. The Ultron himself, while I didn't really love him as a villain, he was very effective. The way the characters worked off of each other and their tension with each other was a lot more natural this time, where you felt like in the other Avengers movie, it felt like when they were fighting, they were forcing that. Like, would they really, you know, try to hit each other at this moment? Is this really something like... Where in Avengers Age of Ultron, when a character is mad and is about to, you know, they're about to fight each other or something like that, you think, yeah, I can see this character doing this at this time. I think that there are some elements to the film that are rushed, but you know what? I still got all the characters that I liked. The dialogue was still very funny. The action scenes were still very entertaining. And Age of Ultron was just a very fun ride this year. And it was good enough to end up at number 9 on my top 10 favorites list. So, good job. Number 8. Number 8, The Revenant. Now, this movie actually I have just watched, and I kind of haven't. Actually, I'm planning on doing a review of it. I'm just probably going to be editing this first. But anyway, The Revenant I loved. I thought that was so cool. It's not necessarily a movie that I'm going to be rewatching over and over again, but it is a movie that is a humongous experience. This guy who also directed Birdman, like, the way he uses his cinematography and camera is like second to none in the business right now. Because like the film opens with a giant like fight sequence between Native Americans and these trappers, and it's just like the camera just smoothly goes around and goes from person to person, and it's so intense. The intense moments is just outright incredible, and that's not even mentioning the best part of the movie, which is the bear. You know, when I saw reviews of this movie, everybody brought up the bear sequence, and I'm like, okay, so there's something to look forward to. When it happened, I'm like, oh, that was good, that was alright. I mean, the bear's leaving, so I think it's just okay. And then he comes back, and then it goes on, I'm like, holy crap, this is absolutely incredible. And then just this character's journey. This is so weird because for most of the movie, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, he's like this, crawling on the ground, and gritting his teeth, and in so much pain, and he's nearly always just crawling on the ground and doesn't even say anything really throughout at least half of this movie. I was thinking more 75% of this movie is him on the ground just crawling and grunting, but he does it so well. I think that's kind of one of the things where this isn't a movie that I'm necessarily going to be watching a whole bunch, but to see Leonardo DiCaprio in this position, doing these things, it's just like, it's really intense. And you got Tom Hardy, who's doing another voice. It's kind of not the same as Bane, but I was born in the wilderness. No, anyway, but we got Tom Hardy, and he's really good as well, because he's not like a typical like mustache twirling villain or anything. He's just a guy that has his own set of ideals and beliefs, and he's trying to go through with that. And it just so happens because of that, it puts his character at risk. It puts him squarely against Leonardo DiCaprio's character Glass. And I really liked it. The Revenant, it's a good movie. It's probably, I hope, is finally going to win Leo that Oscar. Because, come on, what else does he have to do? I mean, if he doesn't win it for this film, I would not be surprised if he went on a killing spree. It was that good. Number 7. Number 7, Ant-Man. Now this is what I was going to say. I don't think Ant-Man's a better film than probably any of the other ones that I've already talked about. But I do think that I enjoyed it more. For example, just using this for example, when Avengers Age of Ultron came out in DVD, I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I bought it and I rewatched it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. When Ant-Man was about to come out in DVD, I'm like, all right, I get to watch Ant-Man again. And I was really surprised about that because I always thought that, come on, they can't make this work, can they? Can Marvel? And look, what anybody has to say about the whole thing with Edgar Wright, you know what, I don't care. Really, like, sure, could the movie have been better? Probably, if it involved Edgar Wright more, sure, probably. But you don't need to worry about that because it's not about what we could have had, it's about what we have. And I think we have a very funny, very entertaining movie. As I said, it's not better than, like, The Revenant. It's not a better made movie than The Revenant. I mean, there are some, lazy, rushed elements to the film, to be sure. But I enjoyed it so much. It was a very funny comedy that happened to be a superhero movie. Ant-Man is very good in my mind. It's, is it one of the best Marvel movies? No. Winter Soldier's the best. But in any case, I still think that it is probably one of their funniest, and that's saying something since their movies are very funny. This is, as I said, it's a comedy that happens to also be a superhero movie. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Number 6. I did not expect this movie to rate as high as it did. Heck, when I saw it, I probably wasn't expecting it to be on my top 10 movies of 2015. But as I said in my review, it's kind of a perfect film. Now, there's nothing, as I said, there's nothing absolutely groundbreaking in terms of animation. There's nothing absolutely groundbreaking in the terms of telling a story in animation. But there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing where I could say, that was a mistake, they shouldn't have done that. There's nothing where I could say, oh, that character was so bad, they should have written that character a different way. There's nothing where I could say, the pacing is so off, they should have, tightened it up or slowed it down. There's nothing that I can really point out to the Peanuts movie, at least after only seeing it once, that I can say that I didn't like. There's nothing. I got nothing. Where it's perfect, but it's, the bar isn't as high as something else might be. So that's why I think it earns its way to number 6, because I just loved it. Every single thing. They didn't modernize the Peanuts characters. They didn't have them doing all sort of things to appeal to the lowest denominator. You didn't have Charlie Brown saying something like Alvin and the Chipmunks, "Shake what your mama gave ya." You can't even see my butt. That's probably for the best. There's no fart jokes or jokes that are below the bar or for the lower denominator. It's just Peanuts. It's the Peanuts characters that you love. It's the Peanuts movie. And you know what? I loved it. I thought it was great. Nothing else to say about it. Peanuts goes all the way to number 6. And now it's time for Laser Dude's most disappointing movie of 2015. This year's most disappointing movie was Terminator Genesis. Yeah, there's two things that I'm gonna have a little side convo with. This one being the most disappointing movie of the year, and then my most hated movie that I saw this year of 2015. But for my most disappointed movie in the world, or this year that I saw, Terminator Genesis. Absolutely. It's not that, like, Terminator Genesis isn't a good movie, but it had so many things that it could have done right. I mean, the whole thing of having the timeline change of the original Terminator franchise, that's a good idea. Star Trek did that in their reboot. You know, just try to get the whole continuity's messed up, so let's try to get a new restart on it. That's a good idea. But it's like, I don't know why they felt like they needed to modernize it. You know, like, okay, Kyle is from the future. He travels back in time and meets Sarah Connor, who's from, when was the first Terminator? 80s? Early 80s, I think? Somewhere in the 80s, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, he goes to Sarah Connor, who doesn't really feel like she's from the 80s, but, you know, the time period actually does. They do well setting that up and all the locations from the first movie. And then the difference is they're, like, there for, like, 10 minutes, and then they're like, well, let's go up to the future. Let's go back up to modern day. Why? Look, you don't need a movie set in modern day. That was much more interesting if you had the characters go back into that moment. And then, I don't know, the movie just kept on making bad decision after bad decision after that. I mean, I'm wanting to say right now, I am a fan of Terminator 3. I know that it is not as good as the other two, but I think Terminator 3 is a serviceable, fun movie. I think it's good. This movie, awful. Well, I shouldn't say awful. There's some good things about it. But, I mean, like, the guy that they got to play Kyle Reese, not good. I've never seen... this guy keeps on getting more and more roles. He's going to be playing Captain Boomerang in the Suicide Squad. You better be good in that, man. But he keeps on getting more and more roles, and I keep on finding him more and more boring. I mean, like, you look at the first Terminator movie. There's that scene where Kyle is chasing down Sarah. She's, like, doesn't know what to feel. Like, she knows the Terminator's real, but she doesn't know what to feel. And he stops her, and then he just has to pause and look around. They're in a nice meadow with, like, a trickling stream in the woods. And he just starts crying, and he says, all this is going to be gone. We don't get any vulnerability from him, or even really from Sarah Connors. You know, Sarah growing up with a Terminator, that's a great subplot. I mean, think about that. You know, now Sarah Connors has to grow up, but she's protected her whole life by a Terminator. Smart. That's a smart idea. Really good. Having Doctor Who as the visual interpretation of Skynet, you know, Matt Smith, great idea. He has the charisma to pull something like that off. Doesn't work. Nothing works in this film. I don't want to go on too much more about it because it's just, I didn't get a chance to review it, and it was so disappointing. I don't know what's next for the Terminator franchise. Honestly, I think they're going to have to reboot it. Scrap everything, start from scratch, reboot it. Go back to the beginning. Gotta go back in time. Gotta get back in time. Look, I can do finger puppets. It's a bunny. Number 5. Yeah, that's right. That's right. It is Creed. Creed is what. Let me just, before I get into this, I want to tell you how what's my history with the Rocky franchise. I've seen the first one. Yeah, I've only seen the first Rocky franchise. I've seen, let's for example, the Nostalgia Critics review on Rocky 4. I know that the franchise goes a little corny later in its history, but I've only seen the first one, so I only saw it when the franchise was, a super serious, somber, franchise. I don't know like, I might see Rocky 2. I don't really have any interest in any of the other ones. But I liked it. I really liked the first Rocky a lot. And then we get Creed, which is basically a going back. It's getting rid of all the silly stuff and going back to the main tone of the franchise. We got this guy who is Adonis Creed, who is called Donnie. Now, he was the child of Apollo Creed thanks to an affair he had with his wife. Now, the movie opens up with he's fighting in a juvie home, and his Apollo Creed's wife comes to him, visits him, and then adopts him. This, right off the bat, intrigued me because we have this woman who doesn't have any children. Her husband's dead, and now the only semblance of her husband that is still around is this child that he had it's not even hers. He had an affair with her, and here's this child. But she has, instead of, being angry at him for existing, she decides to honor her husband and raise him as her own. And that is such an interesting experience. But the movie doesn't stop there. The relationship that Adonis has with Rocky is great because it's so interesting because, Apollo Creed dies in Rocky 4, which is, from what I've seen from the Nostalgic Review, super corny and all over the place. But still, he dies. And so now you have this thing where you actually make Rocky feel sorry because he didn't throw in the towel earlier. And you know what? Then just the way that he and Adonis play off of each other, really good. Michael B. Jordan, great. Green. And it's projected on the wall, and he goes and he shadow box. But what I found so interesting is he doesn't step on his father's side to pretend to fight Rocky. He steps on Rocky's side and it pretends to fight Apollo. This is like a whole symbolism of him battling his own legacy and trying to come to grips with it. But then later in the film, you realize that you have to embrace the legacy if he wants to become fully who he is. Sylvester Stallone, really great. I mean, it's just, he's back being Rocky, he's simplistic, he knows how to fight, and that's all he really knows. I like that. The whole movie, it's really interesting because it's about embracing your legacy, not being ashamed of, your family's legacy, but still being your own man. And it is a really good movie. The fight sequences are really good, really brutal, and I think they were, it's a really good step. I don't know what this has, what's in store for the franchise going forward, but in all, I thought that the Rocky spin-off Creed was very, very good, and you know what? I actually can't wait to see more. So that's why Creed goes all the way up to number 4. Number 4. Oh yeah. Star Wars The Force Awakens goes to number 4. Now, there's two sides that I have to first talk to before I get on to this review. For all of you who are saying The Force Awakens is overrated and everyone is going too gaga over it and it shouldn't be at number 1 on anybody's top list, chill. People can like what they want to like. Doesn't matter if you don't think that the franchise is as good as you think it is, or the movie is as good as other people. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Just chill. All right. Second, the group who thinks Star Wars: The Force Awakens is the best movie, better than a lot of the other Star Wars films, all of them even, and think that it's probably the best movie of the year. Chill. I think there might be some people say, how dare you not have Star Wars The Force Awakens at number 1? Because this is my favorites. Okay? This is my favorites. This is how I feel about it. And as far as I feel, I think The Force Awakens goes to number 4. So, I don't want anyone saying The Force Awakens should be higher because it's my list. You can say, I would have had The Force Awakens higher. I feel it's higher. Or, if you're the other group, you can say, I would have had it lower. I don't think I would have had it on the list, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. This is how high I have it. It's number 4. All right, now we can talk about the movie. I really liked it. I really liked it a whole lot. I think that, you know, all the characters really are really great, and I think they work off of each other really well. The acting is really good. Some of these characters don't even spend that much time with each other, but they act like they're friends, that they've known each other forever, and you know what? You buy it. And I think all of the characters are great. I think that the franchise needs to maybe embrace a little bit of the expanding universe. I know. I don't need... Like, let me just say, as I said in my review, I've just gotten into the expanded universe, and there's a lot of things I like about it. But enough about that. I like, there's certain things of this movie that I find head-scratching. You know, why is, you know, the Millennium Falcon probably one of the most famous warships in all of Rebellion history? Why is that just sitting in a junkyard and he's not either... this guy's not selling it, you know, stuff like that. But you know what? They're not game-breaking questions to me, or in this case, movie-breaking questions. To me, there's just, you know, a little oddities here and there, but nothing that's worth getting upset about. The movie itself is very well done, very well shot. It's setting up the new franchise very well with good characters, and it's good that they kept Luke out of it, because I didn't say this in my review, but me and Ironhide465 did a talk about this. It's not uploaded yet, but he's working on it. Anyway, where I said, you know, it's good that they kept Luke out of the first part, because otherwise our entire focus shifts from all of these new characters to Luke. Luke is now the central focus, and that's very true. You know, Han Solo was always the second main character of the franchise. He was never the main character. So to keep him in that same role in this movie makes sense. But if you put Luke in the forefront right in this movie, our eyes are, in our minds are automatically going to be to following Luke and try to see it through his eyes. To keep him out till we know these characters is a smart decision. The movie is great, and it earns itself all the way to number 4. Number 3. The Martian. This movie I did want to review. Busy. I've been really busy, but here's a little bit more of my recap. You can see that by having it at number 3. The Martian is a really good movie. I really liked it quite a bit. I think that, you know, it's another one of these stories of one guy versus the world, or in this case versus Mars, trying to survive and using everything in his knowledge to his advantage in order to get out. In my mind, it was Gravity meets 127 hours. And you know what? Matt Damon does a really good job as this character who's just trying to stay alive. You know, I remember coming out of this thinking, you know, I wish he got mad a little bit more, because I'm like, you think that maybe he'd break down a little bit more on this, and maybe he would, but maybe this is the, you know, it's not, that's not a plot against the film, because it's just like, this is the type of character where, you know, he can't allow himself to think what could happen, or else he might go mad, and the times where he does, you know, break down, they're very well done, and they are there. It's not like the character is, you know, like totally calm throughout the movie. He does have moments when he breaks down. The only thing I think like holds this movie back for me is that final scene where he actually finally gets away. I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. This is something that should happen in WALL-E, not The Martian, where everything has been so serious up to this point. But once again, nitpick, Martian is very good. I really liked it. I don't think that, you know, Matt Damon's gonna win Best Actor. I think Leo probably has that down this year, but I think the movie might have a shot for Best Picture. Who knows? I thought it was very fun, and you know what? That's why it's number 3. Number 2. Number 2, Pixar's Inside Out. Pixar had a pretty good year when it comes to movies, but the pretty good... I didn't get to talk about it, so I'm just going to quickly talk about it here. The Good Dinosaur was not that good. Dinosaur. I mean, it's just... In the end, it's a movie. If it's a dinosaur film we've seen a million times, and nothing is new. Inside Out is new. You know, the way that it uses a human being's mind, it's one of those pictures that makes you think afterwards. Where you're like, I wonder what my mind's control room is like. You know, you wonder stuff like that. It's one of those things like, for example, when I was finished watching The Truman Show, I used to go in front of the mirror and say, I know you're watching. Oh yeah, you can drop the charade. I know everybody's watching. You know, as a kid, I was like, is people watching? It's one of those things that make you think. And this was one of those movies for me, because it has so many smart ideas. I was really mad that I didn't actually get to review this one when it came out. Once again, busy with stuff. Hopefully this year will not be the same as last year. I won't be as busy. I think that it was great. The character of joy and sadness, putting them together on this journey. The way that the human, the outside real world works with the inside world and how they react to it is very well done. The way that the characters work off of each other, very well done. The fact that they take this story seriously, that looks to me, from the trailer when I saw it, it looked like it was going to be a little kiddie. Yeah, a little kiddie, that's what I thought. And yet, you know, some of this stuff is the deepest and most insightful that Pixar's ever been. All I can say is, Inside Out was great. Now, a lot of people are saying, like, oh, it's their new favorite Pixar movie. I don't know where it would, if you gave me, like, told me to do, like, with a gun to my head, all right, do the next top 10, your top 10 favorite Pixar movies. I don't know where Inside Out would rank. Would it be in the top 10? Probably. It's just, I haven't grown up with it enough at this point, you know, where other movies have been with me for longer. So it's gonna have to wait until some time passes before I really know how I feel about Inside Out fully. But as far as the year 2015 goes, it's at number 2. And the number 1 best movie of 2015... Actually, let's go to the number 1 worst movie that I saw in 2015 is... Yeah, the worst movie is Fantastic Four. At least that I saw. I didn't see a whole lot of bad movies. And at the very least, I didn't see anything worse than Fantastic Four. I think I was a little bit too easy on it, actually. I remember I gave it a 0 for being a Fantastic Four movie, but a 4 for just a below-average film. Thinking back on it, I might want to change that to about a 3, because the acting is so bad in this. They're so dull. Everyone is just so stone-faced, and the characters don't work off of each other at all, and the way the movie is just so dark, and it's supposed to be a Fantastic Four movie. I mean... What? I mean, Fantastic Four is not something you should be able to make dark, or should, or want to. This whole movie is a structural mess from beginning to end, and there's just nothing really that you can take about it that is redeemable. I mean, you look at the old Fantastic Four movies, there's stuff in it that you could take out and say, okay, this on its own would be good in a Fantastic Four movie. You know, Johnny Storm and the Thing's relationship with each other, that's great. You know, some of the action scenes, Johnny Storm chasing the Silver Surfer is great. You know, there's little snippets here and there that you could say, oh, you know what, this is good. There's nothing redeemable about this Fantastic Four movie. And in the end, I think it's time we just let it die. If I ever want to see anything Fantastic Four related again, new, I say do a Netflix series on the Fantastic Four. You need it all. You need a whole season directed to just Doctor Doom in order to do that character right. You can't do it in one movie. They've tried it 3 times now. It won't work. And the number 1 favorite movie of 2015 is... Oh, what a movie! What a lovely movie! Mad Max Fury Road is such a train ride. I guess it's more of a car ride. Let me just tell you this right now. I have not seen any of the other Mad Max movies. Not one. I haven't have any personal stakes in that at all. But the action was such action back going. And you know what? The characters worked off of each other well. Didn't have to really say a whole lot to get anything across. This was like a Michael Bay action film, but good. You know, where you actually did care about the characters. Where you actually did care about the action. Where it wasn't all CGI. Where it was, you know, it was like that. It was just every single thing that Michael Bay does wrong in his films, you know, this guy, George Miller, did right in this movie. I mean, I liked it a lot. I loved it. I thought it was such a fun movie to work with. It was extremely quotable, extremely fun, did have deep underlying tones underneath the whole thing. And you know what? In the end, Mad Max Fury Road was, to me, the octane mile-a-minute thing that that I loved. Probably a little bit like the only thing that I can really complain about it is I didn't really know any of the backstory. But you know what? That was kind of my fault for not watching the other Mad Max movies. I still haven't gotten to them. I need to go do that. It's one of those franchises that I haven't really touched upon, but now I have a foot down. Let's see if I can see any of the rest. Anywho, this to me is just reminded me so much about what filmmaking should be. The number one thing that I took away from this film is that CGI should be made to convince us that something is there, not remind us when something is not. And that's the big problem with CGI these days. They use it for everything so much that it reminds the audience, at least in the mind, that it's not really there. When you actually see something exploding on the film, and it's an actual explosion, and you can see a guy playing guitar with a flamethrower on the top of a truck, and that's really there, and all these things are really there, it clicks in here. It makes everything so much bigger, so much grander, and so much more intense. And in the end, I just think that Mad Max Fury Road was the movie that I enjoyed the most this year and was my favorite movie of 2015. So, that's all I have to say about that. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm LazyDude99. Hoping that this year, 2016, will be a little bit more better year for me to get more reviews out, because I've been I don't want to say I was slacking because I was working a whole lot behind the scenes, but I want to say that my movie reviews were really slack this year. It felt like one a month. I'm going to try to do one a week, at the very least one review a week, and I'm going to have my animated lookbacks to be once a month. At least I'm going to try for that. Since I've said it out loud here on camera, you can now type in the comments if it's been a month and be like, hey, where's your animated look back review for this month? Huh? A little positive encouragement. Please let it be positive. Anyway, that's my list for 2016, or 15. Hope to see you guys at the end of 2016, or more likely early 2017, where I give you my top 10 list of 2016. Thanks for watching. Adios. Be sure to check out more of my other videos on my channel, and wait for more coming soon.